Hello and welcome to episode 41 of Game Patrol. Kind of nuts that I've made it this far. I've, I started this in January of 2020, and now we're here, over a year later, 41 episodes in. It's kind of nuts. I think that's the most, I think it's the longest I've ever had a project go. Because I'm really bad at commitment, and so I'm happy about that. Every single week, makes me happier and happier that I still got this going. But anyway, I've got a really good show for you guys today. I'm really excited. We are talking about the big stuff from February and what to look forward to into March, because happy March. It's March 4th. My hair is a mess, and I'm going to be messing with it probably the entire episode because it's driving me nuts. But it's all good. And so because it's really hard for me to wear hats now because I have so much hair, and so it physically pushes it up, and it makes it very difficult. Every time I wear a hat, it starts to make it starts to feel almost uncomfortable, and I need one of them that has this the cutout, and then wear it normally and just kind of do a little ponytail thing. I feel like maybe that would work better. I don't know. Actually, I have one right over there. I kind of forgot it existed. All right. But anyway, yeah, we're going to talk about what to look forward to in March. We've got a bunch of news to cover, lots of cool things. Let's get into it. So our February wrap-up. Like I said, we're in March. February is over. Let's talk about the highlights of February, of which, if you are newer to the show, I always talk about the best received game of February and the most popular game, the one that everybody talked about most. And we've had this happen before, but here we are again. Those games are one and the same. Both the best reviewed game and the most popular game were Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. And so, my discussion on this, I've gotten a lot of flack for my Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury review, specifically the Bowser's Fury portion, because I didn't super enjoy Bowser's Fury. I think it's fine. I think it starts off really well. It just, and like I said on the podcast before and in my review, it just goes on too long. I feel like this is just a glorified demo that they're trying to, it's like a lot of people were saying it's a proof of concept. They're trying to figure out where to go next with the 3D Mario franchise. And, this is kind of them testing that out. But yeah, people were not I don't know. Because I know I'm not the only person to not like Bowser's Fury. I've heard other people. I know there are people on the IGN staff that weren't super they're yeah, it's good. It's not great, but it's it's okay. And that's kind of how I feel. I would say if I had to rate this game, right? Because in my reviews I don't give numbers because I think it's, I understand why numbers exist in terms of ratings, because it does make it easier to quantify the review, but it also kind of, I'm trying to think of the right word here, it makes it, I feel like it invalidates the review to some extent, it kind of naturally lowers the quality of a review when you try to, because this is something I've noticed, and maybe I just need more experience, but anytime I try to think about, okay, what score is this? Is this an 8? Is this a 9? Is this a 6? What is it? That becomes the focus of my review, the number. Instead of my actual thoughts, it's me justifying the number that I'm giving it at the very end, And so I feel like if I don't focus on that, it makes it a lot better. There's a lot better review. And, I could still put a number at the end. I could still just, not worry about the number until I have the entire review written out, and then read through my review, think about it, and slap a number. That can happen. I just personally don't. But anyway, I'd say Super Mario 3D World, 9 out of 10. That's pretty easy for me to say. I absolutely love 3D World. Bowser's Fury, I would put it as a 6. It's okay. I think there's some really, really cool moments in it, and I think it's really good at times, but I think the overall experience of Bowser's Fury in its totality is a 6 out of 10. And so, you average those out, what is that? It's like a 7.5. So, it's still a really good game in totality. And, Super Mario 3D World will take up the vast majority of your playtime, And so I feel like that 9 out of 10 should have more influence over the 6, So I would say this is like a solid 8 out of 10 game. But yeah, I don't know. That's awesome. I'm never going to say that you're wrong for liking a game. Because if you like a game, that's awesome. Good for you. And again, I don't dislike Bowser's Fury, I guess. I don't know. I just the later, like the last hour of the game was just not enjoyable for me because it got so repetitive. That's where it's like it severely tanks my opinion of a game if the end of the game is just really blah. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake, exact same thing. Although I would probably think more highly of Final Fantasy VII Remake than Bowser's Fury because there's a lot of content that I loved in there. It's just the third act of the game was so slow and just drawn out. Like, I love Remake. I think it's really awesome, and I think the pacing overall is done really well. It's just towards the end, they're like, yeah, just instead of making the enemies necessarily harder, we'll just make them have like 1,000,000 health. So you have to be just grinding essentially to get through, and it's just annoying. And I don't like it. I never finished it because of it. I put it down and I was like, okay, whatever. And it does haunt me. It does haunt me. I want to go back and finish it, especially after this whole Integrate announcement, which we're gonna get into. But yeah. So it severely tanks my opinion of a game if it doesn't end on a good note. And I feel like that's where Bowser's Fury is. I don't think it landed on I don't think it ended off strong. And I think, I don't know, I'm curious to see how many fans of Bowser's Fury, because I know there are some who have beaten the game and like love it, but I'm curious to see how many Bowser's Fury fans actually finished the game. To be honest, it should be a lot of them because it isn't, that long, but I've heard some people just like viciously defend this and they haven't even finished it. And it's like, I mean, I'm also a victim of that, where it's like I will praise a game without knowing the ending, and sometimes the ending can really change your perspective on the game as a whole. Sorry, I promise I don't have COVID. But those are just my thoughts on it. I don't know. I don't want to be a hater. That's not what I'm trying to be, because like I said, I still think if you haven't played 3D World, this game is an absolute must-own. Like I said that in my review, that is it. Like, if you have not played 3D World, absolutely go for it. If you have played 3D World and you want to replay it, I think this is still worth it. But if you are solely like, I really want to play Bowser's Fury, like, you've played 3D World, you're like, I want to play Bowser's Fury, $60 is not something you should shell out for this. Again, if you really want to replay 3D World, go for it. I think that's awesome. But if you're just like simply wanting to play Bowser's Fury and you want to shell out $60, that's not in my opinion. But yeah, it's an interesting game, but I still enjoyed it for the most part, and it's one of the best games I've played this year because we're in March, so it's not been a lot of time. It's been 2 months, but yeah. But let's look forward to March. Kind of a slow month. I thought February was a little slow. March is even slower. Basically, everything comes out at the very, very end of the month. Like, there's a bunch of games coming out on March 26th specifically. But let's focus on the big two, right? It's enough that 2 big games are coming out. There's actually more. I'm not going to talk about Balan Wonderworld, but that's also coming out on the 26th, I think. But let's talk about the 2 I'm really excited about. So It Takes Two is coming out March 26th. That is Josef Fares' new game from Hazelight Studios. They are the creators of A Way Out and Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. That's not, the studio didn't make it, but Josef Fares did. But yeah, I'm obsessed with A Way Out. I think it's the best co-op game ever made. And, I'm obsessed with it. And I'm very excited for It Takes Two. So, the aesthetic, I mean, I don't know. I'm not super vibing with the whole. I think the premise is cool, but just the cartoonish aesthetic. I don't know. I like the hyper realistic look of A Way Out, and not that I don't like these kind of art styles. There are plenty of games I want. I think it's just from Josef Fares. I kind of wanted that photorealistic, like, because A Way Out. Not to say that it was like it's not like it's running on Frostbite or anything. I think it had some engine limitations, but it was a beautiful game. Like, it was a good-looking game. So I was kind of excited to see what they were working on next in terms of, like, a graphical fidelity. And not to say that It Takes Two looks bad in any way. Like I said, it's just a completely different art style. And so that it kind of bummed me out a little bit. But, I'm still very excited for it. They have just started doing their whole, like, marketing cycle, and, we're getting a lot of preview stuff, and people are really excited about it. So, I can't wait to play. That comes out March 26th. And then the other one, if you know anything about gaming, you probably know about this. Well, I shouldn't say anything, but, my people know. Yeah, it's Monster Hunter Rise. So, our sequel to Monster Hunter World that isn't a sequel, but is the next big installment in the Monster Hunter franchise, coming to Switch March 26th. I'm excited about it. It looks really, really good. It's also running on the RE engine, which means this might be the best looking Switch game we've ever seen. I'm very curious to see how it performs. I think it's almost certain that we'll get a Digital Foundry video on it, so I'm very excited to see that. Which I talk about Digital Foundry a lot on this podcast and in my reviews, and well, actually, I don't think I mentioned them in my reviews, but I do use them for research in my reviews. But I talk about them a lot on this podcast. I talk about them because they're very good, and so you should subscribe to them. If you are interested in the gaming, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, really, I would really suggest subscribing to Digital Foundry on YouTube. They give in-depth, deep dives into performance on, various video games, both new and retro, and it's just a really interesting look. Like, I had heard about them a long time ago and never really got into them until just a couple months ago. Well, actually, it was with the next-gen launch, right? It was in November. Looking at the, performance comparisons between PlayStation 5 and Series X. But, I was never really interested in all of that because it's like, whatever. I mean, yeah, it runs at 60, it runs at 30, whatever. But they're very, very good at what they do. Like, they're very smart, and so they talk about, tessellation and DLSS, and, if there are performance issues with the game, they will help narrow down what it is. Like, if they can, they're like, it looks like this is a processing issue or this sort of thing, and, like, it's really interesting because I've learned a lot about, what makes a game tick and that sort of stuff, and it's really interesting. So if you really like video games and you would like to learn more about, not necessarily, a little bit about development, but just sort of the graphical things that go into, game performance and engine utilization and all that stuff, Digital Foundry does a really good job. And yeah, I really enjoy their videos. And so, yeah, would heavily recommend it. But I'm excited to see their Monster Hunter Rise video because I think that's going to be one that is very interesting. This is the first game running on this engine on the Switch. So I'll be very interested to see performance. But yeah, so those are the big games coming out in March. Not a ton, but they're both on the same day. March 26th is a very busy time. And April, April's not that big either. It's literally, I think, Returnal and MLB, I think. Is it? Oh, Outriders as well. April Fool's Day. But yeah, so we're kind of slow, and that's to be expected because 2020 with COVID, I mean, a lot of games were basically done. They were finishing up, pushed it out the door. I know I'm not talking about Cyberpunk. We all know that wasn't done. And so, but with 2021, a lot of these games still had a large portion to be made before COVID essentially blasted everyone away from each other. And so we've already seen this in a lot of ways about delays and just things getting pushed back. And so I don't think 2021 is doomed in terms of games. Like, I don't think this will necessarily be a bad year for video games. I mean, I already talked about, like, the medium. Again, people are so polarized about the medium. I love the medium. I'm sorry. It's the best game I've played this year so far. But we've got Resident Evil Village coming. We've got Forbidden West coming. Those are both ones that I'm confident are coming this year, right? And so just for those two alone, that's all I really care about. And we've got a lot of other cool stuff coming as well. I feel safe to say that Far Cry 6 is coming this year. And, you know, again, plenty of other stuff. Persona 5 Strikers is really, really good. I haven't played it yet, but I do own it. Hold on. I have the disc right here somewhere. Hold on. I'm going to try to, like, pick it out by looking at the camera. I think that's it. Yeah, this one right here. Right? Yes, Persona 5 Strikers, right there. I've got it installed. I just haven't had time to play. And I think it's a little too late for me now. I'll eventually get to it, but I do have Persona 5 Strikers, so I just haven't got to it. But yeah, a lot of cool games have already come out. I think... and again, you know, with COVID delaying things, we'll see how many we get. But I think this could also be a really big year for indies, right? I mean, I've already bought a ton of indie games I wouldn't have necessarily gotten before. I bought Curse of the Dead Gods, which I have yet to try out. I got Blue Fire, which is really, really fun. I mean, Valheim. I've been playing a ton of Valheim. I have about 30 hours into that. So there's that. What else is there? There was another one. Oh, there's Skull, the Hero Slayer. I haven't played that one either yet, but I do own it. And so, you know, I've already gotten a ton of cool indie games that I probably wouldn't have gotten if, you know, more jam-packed. And so, you know, it's one of those things. There's still going to be plenty of games to play, right, in 2021. I think maybe if you were to look at it very pessimistically, don't know if that's a word, but I think, you know, you could obviously say stuff about, you know, this being like a slow year or whatever, or like, you know, not the best year in gaming. But I don't like, I think if you really look at it at the end of the year, my guess, my estimation is that I don't think that's going to be the case, you know? I think this is going to be the showcase for indie games. I think we're going to open up to a lot of really cool experiences. I think in the past few years, indie games have really taken a lot more of a spotlight. I think that game companies in general have done a much better job of promoting indie games and trying to get them out into the spotlight. So it's not just the Ubisoft and EA and Microsoft and Bethesda and all that. You know, we're seeing a lot of indie showcase titles. And, you know, part of it is because of those corporations. Like, we have EA Originals, and Microsoft has their own thing. I forget what it's called, but I think they have their own indie program. I mean, that's because I think Ori is under that umbrella. I could be wrong. I don't know. But Microsoft started doing more indie showcases back a few years ago. And so, you know, we're seeing more indie games being shown off. And so I'm hoping that this year, you know, since we do have so many COVID-related delays, I am hoping that this year, you know, we get a big boost for indie games, and I think that's going to happen. And so I don't think 2021 will be a quote-unquote bad year for video games. I think it'll be a very different year than, you know, previous ones, and definitely a really weird one, seeing as we just got new consoles, and, you know, games are very slow to come out on these systems now because of obvious reasons. So, you know, it's definitely a very interesting year. I don't think we will have... I think this is going to be the most different year for video games we've ever had, right? But I think it's going to be really cool in the end. I don't think it's going to be a bad year. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, let's move on to the gaming news, because there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. First off, I had to mention it. Valheim has now sold 5 million copies. It took them literally a month, and yeah, they've sold 5 million copies. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. It's pretty much all I've been playing during my free time. If I have free time, you know, I'm playing Valheim. That's pretty much all I've been doing. I love Valheim so much. And so, yeah, it just passed 5 million copies. That's 1 million per dev, because there's 5 devs. That's 5 people made this game. And so, yeah, 1 million per dev. That's honestly, like, I mean, I don't know. Any sort of guess I make is always wrong. But, you know, 5 million times 20, right? That's $100 million this game has made. And then Steam takes 30%. I know that. So they're down to 770 million, right? and then their publisher has their own fees, and so that's that. But I I think it's safe to say that these devs are now millionaires. I don't know, exactly how much these people are getting paid, but you know I feel like, you know, $100 million this game is made in a month, and there's only 5 devs. Like, there's only so much that publishers and all those other people can take out of that. And I know it's a lot. Trust me, I know it's a lot. But 100 million, 5 people, they gotta be rolling. If they don't, that's like almost criminal. Because yeah, give these people their money because they deserved it. It's a hell of a game. And yeah, 5 million copies, absolutely mind blowing in a month. So who knows what it's going to be like, in the future. Like, it's continuing. It has shown some signs of slowing down. It just, every few days we kept hearing another million. And I think it was about a little over a week for this next one. So it is. My analyst friends would be like, "Oh, we've already passed the peak, right?" But with things like this, especially Valheim being a viral sensation, it could spurt back up, or different things like that. And I hope it does, because it deserves it. It's a great game. Everyone go check it out. It's really, really good. But secondly, Doom 3 VR Edition got revealed for PlayStation VR. I'm curious if we're getting a PC version. It's been long enough that if we are, they would have get announced. Because the thing that makes me mad about this is they don't honestly, things like this, like on the Nintendo Direct, right? We got things announced for Switch, and then afterwards, like, oh yeah, it's also coming to Xbox and PlayStation. But Nintendo wasn't going to say that, right? And so I was curious if it was also coming to PC, but it doesn't seem like there's any confirmation of that. So it looks to be PSVR exclusive for now. I imagine it's going to be a timed exclusive. I would be surprised if this was a PlayStation exclusive. But yeah, it looked really, really cool, and I'm excited because I can play this. I have the aim controller. I've only used it once, so I'm kind of excited for this, like, to have another reason to bust it out. And I'm not excited to use PlayStation VR. Like, that's why I was hoping we get a PC announcement as well, because I would much rather play it on my Oculus. But just because I have motion sickness, and so PlayStation VR doesn't do well for me, compared to the higher refresh rate stuff. It's just, it doesn't work for me super well. But it looks really, really good. It was built from the ground up for VR. Like, I think it has the potential to be a really, really good VR game. I think it has some really cool stuff. I'm kind of excited for it. And it comes out March 29th. So it's here in a few weeks. And yeah, I'm very interested to see how it turns out, because it looks really cool. So we shall see. I might pick this one up. But next up, we've got the Pokemon Presents 2021, which I am very excited to talk about this. I was so excited. I watched this while I was working last Friday, and it was just, whoa, I loved it. And so, first off, let's talk about we'll say the biggest announcement. I think there were some cool announcements all in all, but the biggest announcement, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes were announced. So these are remakes of the Nintendo DS's Diamond and Pearl that released in 2006. I thought it was 2007. No, well, in 2006. And so, these are remakes that are being outsourced. Game Freak is not doing this. They're being made by ILCA Inc. I think you pronounce it Ilka, who also worked on Pokemon Home and have supported titles like Nier Automata and Yakuza 0. I paused because I was like, did I pronounce Automata right? I don't know, honestly. But however, if that was like, oh, they aren't making it, it's going to be bad, they just outsourced it to a crappy studio, the original director of Diamond and Pearl will be directing these games alongside Ilka's Yuichi Ueda. So, they have some of the original team back to, make sure that this game is faithful to the original, while, obviously this is a big leap, bringing it from the DS to the Switch, right? We technically haven't really seen a remake like this before. We got Let's Go Pikachu, which was technically a remake of, Red and Blue, but it obviously functioned very differently. As far as we know, these Diamond and Pearl remakes are going to function much like the, originals did, just, up-resed, and maybe we get some new sort of features. We don't honestly know too much right now, but it does seem to be more in the more of a traditional Pokemon game versus the Let's Go structure. And so, we haven't really gotten a remake like this. So we'll see. Overall, if you were to compare this with the DS version, it looks miles better. But for a Switch game, I don't know, it looks like somewhere between a Switch game and a mobile game. Like, somewhere in between the two. Like, better than a mobile game, but not as good as a Switch game. We'll see. I don't know. I wasn't, super impressed by the look of it, but I don't frankly care that much. That's not something I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a bad game. I love Pokemon, so I'm very excited for this. I'm gonna be picking up Diamond because my boy Dialga, you already know, and so I'm very excited. Curious if we'll get a Platinum. Probably not. But maybe if these are super well received, maybe they'll work on a Platinum version. Let's see, we got Brilliant, Shining. Well, what would be another one? Luminescent Platinum. That's there we go, boys. The Luminescent Platinum coming 2022. I don't know, but we'll see. The other big announcement, the one that I went absolutely nuts for, is Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is also, I forgot to mention, the Diamond and Pearl remakes are coming this fall. So there we go. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed. But Pokemon Legends Arceus coming early 2022. It is taking place in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl's Sinnoh region back in the past. I'm talking wooden Pokeballs, and it looks so good. It looks so good. It is open world. It is basically Pokemon Breath of the Wild, and I love it so much. And, okay, there was a lot of discourse on Twitter where people were like, you guys have to stop comparing everything to Breath of the Wild, grass existed before Zelda, blah, blah, blah. And, okay, here's the thing. One, I'm going to agree with Blessing from Kinda Funny, where he said it is okay to compare things, especially if it's comparing it to something that you love. That's not a bad thing, right? If I'm comparing something to Breath of the Wild, that's a very good thing, because I love Breath of the Wild. It's one of the best games I've ever played. And so, it is very high praise if I compare something to Breath of the Wild. And so, unless it's a carbon copy, which I don't consider this game to be whatsoever, right? And so, I mean it in a good way. Second, Breath of the Wild is one of the biggest games out there right now. It is one of the highest rated games of all time. It sold a literal butt ton. It is the majority of the reason the Switch was successful at launch. Right? There's plenty of good things about the Switch. I'm not to say that Breath of the Wild is the only good thing about the Switch. Definitely not. But, at launch, that was the critical app. That was what people got a Switch for, was Breath of the Wild, because they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Even though it was on the Wii U, But people got a Switch for Breath of the Wild. It was a huge, huge success. And so, of course, open world games are going to use Breath of the Wild as an inspiration. It's we're not making this stuff up. I guarantee if you went to the developers of this game and asked, what were your inspirations for this game, one of the games, because there are going to be multiple, it's not just Breath of the Wild, but one of the games they'll talk about is Breath of the Wild. I don't doubt that, and that's okay. No one's saying that as if it's a bad thing. And people should take inspiration from Breath of the Wild, because it was really, really good. And I've seen some games that have taken inspiration, and they're really, really good. Like Immortals Phoenix Rising. It is by no means a copy of Breath of the Wild, but it uses a lot of the same aspects really, really well. And I think some of the aspects it took from Breath of the Wild are executed even better than Breath of the Wild, And honestly, at the end of the day, that's kind of why I want them to do this, is to see them improve on Breath of the Wild in ways that I can't even think of, right? And so I would love to see, what they do with this, and, copy more systems. But I also saw this one tweet because you can dodge roll in this game, like, and so this one guy was like, the existence of dodge rolling means that Pokemon will beat the shit out of you. So I'm curious. That is a legitimate thought. Like, why can you dodge in the game? Like, are Pokemon gonna be like attacking you? Like, why is that a thing? I know there is kind of like a stealth system, it seemed like, where you can just, like, if a Pokemon doesn't notice you, you can just chuck a Pokemon ball at it and have a chance to catch it immediately, like no battle needed. So I'm curious, how that all is going to work. I think the battle UI looks so good. So this is like, it is a traditional Pokemon game in that, this isn't like a spin-off like what the Mystery Dungeon or Stadium or anything like that. Like, this is an RP, like a Pokemon RPG, but it's also got tons of new systems and things like that. So I'm very curious to see more about this game, because it feels less like a spin-off and more like a completely new direction for the Pokemon franchise. And if this is successful, I could easily see this kind of becoming its own thing. Like, we have the more quote-unquote traditional Pokemon games that, aren't open world, that sort of thing. And then you have, like, the Pokemon Legends franchise, where you see all this stuff. Or maybe this becomes the new default Pokemon. I don't know. But I'm very excited to see what happens with this. It's supposed to come early 2022. Very, very exciting. I'm very hyped for it. Then we also got a new Pokemon Snap gameplay trailer, which looks really, really cool. It's coming out April 30th. I'm very excited about this game. It looks really awesome. As someone who never played the original Pokemon Snap, I'm just excited for more Pokemon stuff. It's cool, and I like it. And so, yeah. But the Diamond and Pearl remakes and Legends Arceus was definitely, they were the big announcements, but this wasn't like a huge direct or anything like that, but we got a lot of really cool information, and so really, really cool stuff. Next up, the PlayStation Plus games for March were announced. They're available right now, so if you weren't sure what they are, you've got Final Fantasy VII Remake for PS4, which we're going to talk about it in a second, but Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, the PS5 version of Final Fantasy VII, there is an asterisk. If you get this game for free with PS Plus, if you get Final Fantasy VII Remake for free, you cannot upgrade to the PS5 version. Meanwhile, if you already own Final Fantasy VII Remake, you will get a free upgrade to Remake Intergrade. However, you will still have to purchase the Yuffie DLC, which is exclusive to PS5. So I don't know. There's a lot of complicated mumbo jumbo going on here, but we'll get into more of that in a little bit here. But just know, if you redeem this, you won't get the PS5 upgrade. So if you really want to play this game on PS5, like the PS5 version and the Yuffie DLC, I would still claim this, right, if you don't have it, but I would also be looking out for sales. Like, if you really enjoy this game and then you decide, you want to play the Yuffie DLC on PS5, I would look out for sales on this game and then just buy it anyway, so that, you can then have that PS5 upgrade, because they've kind of locked people out of it. However, I also know, like, the PlayStation Store, if you've claimed a game via PS Plus, they say you already own it, I think, right? So you can't buy it if you have it via PS Plus. So I'm curious about all of that, right? Like, you would have to buy like a physical disc copy of the game, I guess, maybe. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah. Square Enix doing Square Enix. None of us are surprised, but yeah. Then we've also got Farpoint, which is a VR game for PSVR, which got some mixed reviews, but I think as a VR experience, and it was the big showcase for the AIM controller, people have generally enjoyed it. Remnant from the Ashes, which is Dark Souls with guns, which I've heard very good things from as well. It's also got much more integrated co-op, unlike the Dark Souls franchise, so you can play with your friends. And then for PS5, we've got Maquette, which is a puzzle game. It's not super long. You can do it in one sitting if you want, but yeah, I've heard some kind of mixed stuff. I heard it's good. It's not great, but I've got it downloaded on my system, but I haven't tried it out myself. And so yeah, those are all available now. I mean, personally, people are talking about how PlayStation Plus has been on a really good streak lately. I think this is the weakest of the bunch so far. Now, I say that only because I already own Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? So for me, it's the weakest of the bunch. And when I say the bunch, I mean since the launch of the PS5, so since November. Yeah, it's just because I already own Final Fantasy. So, you know, I mean, and I also do enjoy Maquette, so I'm not saying that this is... I still don't think this is a bad month by any means. But I would also, you know, like to agree that I think PlayStation Plus has been fantastic. I've said it on this podcast before, but PlayStation Plus has been fantastic since the launch of the PS5. You know, getting these PS5 games. Also, if you weren't aware, Destruction All-Stars is still available via PlayStation Plus. It's available for another month, so... be sure to get that if you haven't already. Also, if you plan on getting a PS5 and you don't have a PS5 now, you can still claim these PS5 games. And then when you eventually do get a PS5, you'll have all these games in your library. So also, don't forget about that. But yeah, I really like the PlayStation Plus offerings that have happened since the launch of the PS5. As someone who never really took advantage of PlayStation Plus, like every once in a while I would get a game, but most of the time I wouldn't even play it. Like I'd get it because I'm like, yeah, I'll play this eventually. But you know, the PlayStation Plus, I actually don't think I've played any of the ones for PS5 yet. Like I do plan on it at some point, which again is exactly what I just said for the PS4 ones, but because what if we had... Oh, no, I played Destruction All-Stars. That's a lie. So I did do that. But I haven't played Bugsnax yet because I bought it on PC. But I will eventually play it on PS5. I've had my friends try it out a little bit. So I have logged some time on it, but it wasn't me playing. But I haven't played Worms Rumble, but that is another one I plan on getting to. What else? What was the one... Oh, Maneater. I haven't played Maneater either. That's I mean, out of the games that have released, Maneater is the one that I'm least likely to play, just due to time, right? Like, there's so many other games I need to play. So Maneater is the one I'm least likely to play, but I still think it's a really cool offering. But yeah. So anyway, PlayStation Plus, really cool. And, you know, I think they need to right now since they don't have their own Game Pass and they say they don't want to. I think this is, you know, good on Sony. They needed this. But speaking of Sony, let's talk about that state of play. I think I was a little too harsh on it. I did a live stream, like I mentioned last week. You know, I did a live stream talking about it and, you know, reacting. And I was like, man, this sucks. But there were some really cool announcements, so, and, you know, I don't want to say everything about it was bad, because that's not true. I just think overall it was disappointing. But first, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. So, as I've mentioned it a couple times before, it comes out on June 10th. It is the PS5 version of Final Fantasy VII, which is basically a remastered version of the remake that includes Yuffie DLC, and which is not included. You have to purchase it, so it has a new story. We're not sure how much it's going to cost. We're not sure how long it is. It's 2 chapters, so if I had to guess, I would say you could probably get 10 hours out of it at the most, if you like did all the side stuff, and which we also don't know how much that is going to be in there, but I wouldn't say longer than 10 hours. So if I hope to God, I would say $20 would be how much we spend for this. If they go above that, I'm going to be upset. But yeah, we'll see. We also got a release date for Kena Bridge of Spirits. I said on this podcast that it was going to be the free game for PS5 in March, and I was wrong, because it was announced to release on August 24th. I was very sad about that. And to be honest, I think that was their plan. I think their plan was to make it the March PS5 game, and then the developers were like, yeah, no, we can't hit March, like, this is coming August. So then PlayStation was like, puzzle game, there you go. And so, you know, I don't think Maquette was the original. I stand by my original prediction. But yeah, it's coming out August 24th. It looks so sick. I'm really excited for this game. I'm sad it got delayed to August, but I'm still very, very excited to play this. We got another trailer for Returnal, which surprised me because we just got one like a day before. And so, yeah, we got another one. It looks really cool. I'm not going to lie. I am excited for. I'm getting more and more excited with everything I see from the game, especially since I've really gotten into roguelikes since Hades. And so, I'm excited. I am excited, but, you know, not really something I wanted to see in this state of play. Oddworld Soulstorm got a new trailer, and it is coming April 6th, a.k.a. the day the PlayStation Plus games come out for April, because it will be one of the PlayStation Plus games they announced, which is, yeah, I was making sure it is the first Tuesday of the month, right? Yeah, but I figured since it was the 6th. But, yeah, so it will be free if you have PlayStation Plus. I'm really excited to check this one out. I've never played any of the Oddworld games before. I've considered picking up Abe's Odyssey, but yeah, I haven't played it before. It looked interesting. I think graphically it looks really, really beautiful. But, you know, gameplay-wise, I wasn't, like, super interested, but the fact that this is a PlayStation Plus game is definitely a huge, like, okay, I'll probably play this since it's essentially free for me. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. The very first thing they showed was a stupid trailer for the PS5 version of Crash Bandicoot 4, which, like, I'm 99% sure we already knew about this, right? Like, I'm pretty sure they already announced the next-gen versions for this, and so they just had a whole trailer showcasing all the features and stuff, which is, like, cool, but, again, this is a state of play. Like, we were super excited for big new announcements, and it's like, okay, you're gonna have all the stuff that we already kind of assumed were gonna be in it. Like, cool, okay? Like, I think Crash Bandicoot 4 is a really good game, but I didn't need this in my life. I didn't need that. That was dumb. It was stupid. Okay, whatever. We got a new look at Knockout City. They're coming out with a beta. I had another beta. I got a thing, like, I have beta access to Knockout City right now on PC. I don't think the servers are up, but I got something registered to my account about it, so I don't know if they're doing a new beta here very soon or what. It's coming out May 21st, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's not super, you know, if there isn't another beta soon. But yeah, it's coming out. It's $20, so I've heard pretty good things about it so far. It's a multiplayer dodgeball game. If you hadn't figured it out, it looks all right. Now, this one is my sleeper hit. I don't want people to forget about this one. This was honestly probably my favorite announcement from the state of play. And so the developer of Absolver announced Sifu for PS4 and PS5, which I don't know if we have a release date. I forget if it said 2021 or not. There's no release date at the article I'm looking at here, so they might not have said anything. But it looks really, really cool. So I'm curious. The description here says something that I guessed from the trailer, because it wasn't super set in stone, but each time the player character dies, they're revived slightly older and more skilled. And so this is a really cool, like, kung fu game that kind of feels like, so basically it is the hallway scene of Daredevil, the game. And, like, y'all, like, my people who understand that reference, I know y'all are hyped, because that is exactly why I'm hyped. But it seems like a close quarters Sleeping Dogs, or like a Yakuza. Like, everything's just like close quarters, right? And so it's very much about, like, you know, in your face, like, trying to be a lot more, like, narrow in scope, and I mean that in a good way. And it just looks really, really cool. I think the art style is really cool. It's got a kind of, not really low poly, but similar to Absolver. If you know the art style of Absolver, it's similar to that. But yeah, it looks really, really cool. I'm very excited to see more from it, because I think it's a really cool idea for a game. We also got a new look at Solar Ash, which, after the Pathless, looks a little redundant. It looks like if the Pathless and Haven had a baby, which, you know, it's being published by, I think it's being published by Annapurna. I'm pretty sure. So that's all I need to know. Like, I'm sold on it. It's also coming from the developer of Hyper Light Drifter, but that's coming out later in 2021. You know, action platformer. We got our first look at Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, which I was like, I was like, oh man, a cool horror game. And then I as soon as I saw the animatronics, I was like, oh my god, it's Five Nights at Freddy's. And so it looks interesting. I'm no big fan of Five Nights, but or FNAF as you people call it. But it looked interesting. I'm curious. It definitely piqued my interest, but I couldn't. I'm not gonna say I'm extremely hyped for it. And then finally, we got a new Deathloop trailer that looked absolutely sick. I have been on and off about my hype for this game because I love Arcane Studios for Dishonored and Dishonored only. It's one of my favorite games ever. I'm obsessed with it. So I love Dishonored. I was disappointed by Dishonored 2, and I couldn't get into Prey. And so I'm very excited. I think they have taken a lot of inspiration from Dishonored, but it's obviously a very different, more James Bond style game, and I'm very excited for this game. But it comes out May 21st. Like I said, we got a new trailer. It looks dope. It looks really dope. I'm very excited for it. But yeah, so that's all the news to cover this week. Let's talk about the games coming out, right? So today we've got Mortal Shell Enhanced Edition for PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. Mortal Shell is a ruthless and deep action RPG that tests your sanity and resilience in a shattered world. As the remains of humanity wither and rot, zealous foes fester in the ruins. They spare no mercy, with survival demanding superior awareness, precision, and instincts. Track down hidden sanctums of devout followers and discover your true purpose. So, this was a game that came out last year. We're now getting the next-gen versions of them. I missed out on this game, but I've heard really, really good things, so honestly, I really want to pick this one up. It is a Dark Souls game. It's a Soulsborne, but I've heard really good things. It's got some cool ideas. They wear their Dark Souls inspirations on their sleeves. I mean, the developers have talked at length about it. But yeah, I heard it's really, really good, and it's got that smooth 60 FPS update and all that cool stuff, and so really cool. And then on Tuesday, we've got Apex Legends for Nintendo Switch. Conquer with character in Apex Legends, a free-to-play battle royale shooter where legendary characters with powerful abilities team up to battle for fame and fortune on the fringes of the frontier. So, yeah, we're getting the Switch port finally. I am most likely going to be checking this out because it's been a long time since I've played Apex. I'm curious to see how it runs on the Switch. I really love Apex a lot, but yeah, it's been like a year since I've played, so I wanted an excuse to check it out, and so yeah, I think I'm gonna pick this one up, and it's also free, so there's no commitment, literally nothing. But yeah, so not a ton of games coming this week. Like I said, we're kind of in a gaming lull. That's why I've been playing Valheim like all the time. It's my excuse, but yeah, so let's talk about off hours. I've been playing a bunch of Outriders. I mean, Valheim has been my biggest game thing, right? But Outriders, I played the demo. I'm obsessed with it. I have a video talking all about it on my YouTube channel, but I really like Outriders a lot. And I was like moderately excited for it. I wasn't like most that were like, oh, this game is gonna fail. I wasn't condemning the game, but I was also like, I'm very interested to see it, right? And I got my hands on the demo, played it, and I fell in love. I'm not even a big looter shooter type of guy. Like, I don't play a ton of Borderlands. I don't play a ton of Destiny. I've played both, right? But not enough. Like, I don't play Destiny every single day or anything like that. I haven't played it in forever. And so I'm not, that audience, right? But I love Outriders. And I've been meaning to jump back in and play the other classes, but I think it's really cool, and I'm very excited to play it on April 1st, and I heavily recommend you check it out, because the demo has the entire beginning of the game. You can play it with all 4 classes, however much you want. It's really, really nice. It's really cool, and it's also got cross-play, so play with your buddies wherever they're at. It's on all platforms, except Stadia, because, except Stadia, so, but, yeah, play Outriders. It's really, really fun. And then, yeah, like I said, I've been playing a bunch of Valheim. I've been watching some really cool stuff. I watched The Expanse. Again, I've been watching it every single day. I'm almost done with Season 3 now. Watched The Vigil, which is a really, really good horror film that's based around Jewish mythology, which we've gotten like 3 movies like that before in total, like ever. So it's exciting to see that. It's really good. And then I watched the new Superman and Lois, which I am still conflicted about because the cast the crew has still not responded to the allegations, and so I love that show, but I do not love the crew, and I don't know how to feel about it. It also just got renewed for season 2, and so yeah, that show it causes me a lot of grief, but it's really good, and that's what causes me the grief, honestly. It's because I don't want to stop watching it, but I don't know if I should keep watching it. But yeah, and so with that, I'm going to get the heck out of here this week. Thank you guys for watching / listening / however the heck you're consuming this thing. But thank you much. I'll be back next week to talk about, I don't know, something involving gaming. Lots of cool stuff. And so, yeah, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Seriously, like, this is, like, if I could choose one project to keep, like, if I had to get rid of everything and I could only have one thing, it would be this podcast. I really enjoyed doing this and just sitting down talking about games for an hour a week or more if Matt and Bakel are involved. Yeah, again, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. I'll see y'all next week. All right, adios.